guys, my name is Tammy. I'm the Education Manager here at SANCCOB. I'm broadcasting from Cape Town, South Africa, and here with me is Princess, the Endangered African penguin. I got a chance to talk to the classes involved just beforehand so they could get a chance to meet her. Just to let you know who our classes are for today, we have Mrs. Colson's grade 2s from Sterling, Virginia, Mrs. Beaton's grade 2s from Guelph, Ontario. I hope I said that right, sorry if I didn't. And Mrs. Harkinjo's grade 6s from Sayreville, New Jersey. So guys, thank you so much for joining in with this Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants lesson brought to you through Google Hangouts. Today, Princess and I are going to be talking about something that interests quite a few people, and that is, why is it that African penguins, or why are there some penguins that pair for life? So what I mean here is, why is it that there are some types of penguins that when they get married, they don't get divorced and they just stay together for the rest of their lives? Now, the reason why this is interesting to people is because this isn't very common in the animal kingdom. If you think about why people are monogamous, if people generally get married and stay together forever, it's more motivated by love. But we think that for wild animals, it wouldn't really be something linking to love or more of an emotional thing. It needs to be something that is a little bit more animalistic and about survival, which is why some people find this so interesting. So what we're going to be doing today is learning about why this happens, but specifically with penguins. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Hopefully this should be working. If it does work, if the classes can just give me a thumbs up if you can see pictures of penguins here on my screen. Okay, I'm going to open up my presentation here. Alright, so guys, you should be able to see a lesson presentation in front of you now. Can we all see this? I'm going to go back to my other screen so I can see you guys quickly. Can you guys see it? Thumbs up? Okay, I'm seeing thumbs up. Alright, everything seems fine. So, we're going to be meeting Princess today and learning about why do African penguins pair for life. Sorry, I'm not going to make it the full screen. I did that last time on Google Hangouts, and it didn't click over nicely, so I'm rather going to look at it from this perspective. So, you've met her already. Hi, I'm Princess. I am an endangered African penguin. So you guys should know what the word endangered means at this point. It means that there aren't a lot of these animals left in the wild. Princess, the species, is particularly in trouble. There are only about 19,000 breeding pairs left of the African penguin in my country. And I know 19,000 breeding pairs, you think, wow, that's actually quite a lot compared to other animals. But let's keep in mind that less than 100 years ago, there were over 4 million African penguins. So to be down to less than 2% of their original population in less than 100 years is quite something. I live at SANCCOB in Cape Town, South Africa. SANCCOB is the animal hospital where I work. We are a seabird rehabilitation center. It stands for the Southern African Foundation for the Conservation of Coastal Birds. And Cape Town is a really beautiful city to live in. A lot of people love it here. And lastly, I am beautiful. And yes, she is. Princess is absolutely gorgeous. She actually does some of our marketing here at SANCCOB. You'll see on her tummy that she has several spots. Now, what's quite cool is that all African penguins have spots on their tummy, but none of them have the same spots. It's something that makes them unique, kind of like a fingerprint. And you'll also notice that just above her eye, she's got pink. This pink is actually a sweat gland. Some people think that it's feathers, but no, it's a sweat gland, and it changes color based on how she's feeling. So if it was a brighter, more intense pink color, generally that would be a sign of stress because blood is rushing to that part of the body. There are 18 different types of penguins. A lot of people think it's the happy feet one, the surf's up one, and that's it. No, there are lots of different types of penguins. The ones you'll recognize are emperors and rockhoppers. And even though I've said there are 18 penguins, there are only 17 pictures here. That's because rockhoppers, these little guys here, there are actually two types of rockhoppers, which is what gets us up to 18. Another misconception is a lot of people think that all penguins live in the snow. That's not true. So out of all of these guys here, the only ones that live in the snow are emperors, kings, gentoos, and chinstraps. So out of all of these penguins in front of us, only 4 of them live in the snow. The rest of them would actually live where it's much warmer. You'll find them in countries like New Zealand, Australia, Peru, South Africa, or islands between South Africa and the Arctic. So it's not actually common that penguins live in the snow. There are far more penguins that don't live in the snow. Now, some penguins are monogamous. So you might be looking at this word and you're like, oh my goodness, that's a big word. What does this mean? What is this lady going on about? So monogamous means that they only have one partner. So like I said before, when they get married, these guys don't get divorced. And it's something that interests a lot of people because it's unusual in the animal kingdom. So we want to learn today why. Why does this happen with some types of penguins? All penguins have the same goal, and that's to have baby penguins and to reproduce their own genes. So this mom or dad penguin here is doing a great job because we can see he's got 2 little fluffy chicks here. African penguin chicks are very, very cute. They're very fluffy. You'll see even their flippers, or maybe in your part of the world you call them wings. Even those guys are covered with fluff. So the whole point, no matter what type of penguin you are, you could be any of the 18, your goal in life is to have some baby penguins. We need to remember that it's all about biology. These animals have a good reason for being monogamous. African penguins have a good reason to have one partner. It's that given their biology, they do best when they stay together. And in most cases, it's actually all about survival. Mom and dad need to work together. Both male and female African penguins are involved in preparing the nest and taking care of the chicks. Mommy and daddy African penguin need to work together. What's quite cool here is if you take a close look at this photo, we can't actually really tell the difference between which one is mom and which one is dad. There are a couple of animals in the world that are like this, where it's difficult to tell male from female. Here at the hospital, if we want to know if a penguin is male or female, we generally draw blood or we remove feathers and we send it off for a special test. So here, sitting on the egg, this doesn't necessarily have to be mom penguin. It could actually just as easily be dad. So mom and dad penguin need to work together to make a nest. You'll see here that their nest is on the ground. It's not in a tree, and this makes sense because mom and dad penguin can't fly. They need to make their nests on the ground in kind of like a burrow-like structure. They also need to work together to hatch the egg. Hatching the egg is probably one of the hardest parts of the job, and it's definitely why mom and dad need to work together. So the egg takes 40 days to hatch. If just mom or just dad had to try and hatch this egg by themselves, they wouldn't be able to survive that long without food. So it's impossible for mom to be there for the entire time or dad to be there for the entire time. So that's why mom will sit on the egg for a while. When she gets hungry, she's going to honk. Dad will come over, he'll take his turn on the egg, and they'll swap. And mom can go out and catch some fish. So that's why it's critical that they work together, because if just mom had to do this, she wouldn't be able to do it alone. And at the same time, if dad had multiple partners and he had chicks with a few moms in the colony, he wouldn't be able to balance his time properly between several moms. Now, something that we spoke about here was hatching eggs. And it's something that we do at SANCCOB where I work, is we take in eggs from the wild and we hatch them and rear them here at the center. So this is a short video of the first African penguin chick that hatched in 2015. So it's pretty amazing that we get to see and hatch so many chicks during the year. When we do get eggs in and we hatch them, we'll wait until they're about 3 months old, and then we release them back into the wild, because that's about the age that they'd be able to hunt on their own. Now, there are other animals in the wild that are monogamous, like French angelfish, swans, gibbons, wolves, and even some types of insects. Now, insects, it tends to surprise people that there are any cases of monogamous insects, because when you think of an insect, you just think of like really massive colonies of lots and lots of insects. But there are some cases. So, for example, there's certain types of termites where there isn't just a queen termite, there is also a king, and their offspring for that colony will come from the two of them. And even interestingly enough, there are documented cases of monogamous cockroaches, which is super interesting. A lot of people don't believe this one, but it's true. So next time you squash a cockroach at home, you could be squashing a Mr. or Mrs. Cockroach for all you know. It's really interesting that there are some animals that function this way. So we're going to wrap up there and talk about what we learned and see if there are any questions. I am going to stop sharing my screen. There we go. You guys should be back again. I'm going to unmute Mary's class first. And if you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask. Okay, let me open up my control panel and unmute you.
Everybody else needs to be silent. You're going to say your name, and then you ask your question. There you go.
Hi, I'm Addie, and I want to know how many penguins are in the world.
How many penguins are in the world? My word. That would be millions. I can't give you an exact number. I'm really sorry, but it depends. It depends, though. But you know, they actually, the bulk of penguin species actually are endangered, though. And penguins are a really important animal, because if penguins are dying, it means that our oceans are dying. So they are definitely what I would call an indicator species, where we need to watch how they're doing, because if they're not doing well, it's not a good sign for our oceans. So there are millions of penguins, because there are lots of different types of penguins that live in lots of different places all over the world, but that doesn't mean that they're in a good spot. That's a very good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have somebody from Miss Thomas's class who would like to ask a question? You guys all being shy? All right, Rihanna, come on up then. Do you guys have a question? I'm going to let Rihanna go. Tell her your name. Say hi.
My name is Rihanna. How many penguins do you have at SANCCOB?
That's a very good question. Thank you. So right now we have 84 penguins in the hospital. There are 35 penguins that live here. But we see about 1,500 penguins a year. It's actually quiet in the hospital at the moment. The most penguins we've seen at once was 20,000 when we had an oil spill. It was the largest animal rescue mission in history. But our maximum capacity here is about 1,500. And when we're really busy, it's normally about 400 to 700 birds in here at once. So it does get quite busy here. So it's nice and quiet. We're enjoying some downtime after the busy chick season at the end of last year. Thank you. It's a very good question.
Thank you.
Miss Thomas' class, do any of you guys have a question? All right, Ellen, come on up. All right, we have another one.
Hi, my name is Owen, and I wanted to know if penguins eat anything other than fish.
There are some penguins that eat other things, but they kind of still fall under seafood. So some penguins will eat more crustaceans, so they'll eat things like crabs. But then you'll get other types of penguins, maybe that instead of traditional fish like sardines, which is what Princess loves to eat, you'll find maybe rockhoppers enjoy eating more food like squid or calamari or those types of things. But they are seabirds, so they do eat stuff from the sea. So if I went and I got a Big Mac meal and I popped it in front of Princess, she wouldn't be interested at all. They are seabirds and they love to eat food from the ocean. It's a good question. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
All right, so I'll take one more question from this class, and then we're going to jump over to Joanne's class.
Why do penguins have beaks? Why don't they have, like, mouths that are, like, soft?
That's an awesome question. Okay, so first thing is they're birds, so they do need beaks. Now, if we take a close look in Princess's mouth, you'll see that she doesn't have teeth like we do. Right, so let's think about this logically. If a penguin had teeth, right, what do they like to eat? Fish. And if they're eating raw fish all the time and they're chewing into the fish with their teeth, they're going to expose all of the bones in the fish before they swallow it. So what do you think would happen to Princess if she swallowed this fish with all these bite marks in it and all the bones sticking out? What do you think would happen?
She might die.
She'd probably die. She'd probably wind up choking because there's so many bones in her throat. So penguins are designed this way because she has to be able to swallow her food whole so that she doesn't break the skin of the fish, and she can swallow it without getting any of the bones stuck in her throat. It's really amazing. Okay, cool. Guys, thank you for those questions. I'm going to jump over to Joanne's class next, and then I see some typed questions coming from Caden's class, so we'll answer those in a second. All right, so Joanne, I've unmuted you. You can let me know any questions you guys have on your side.
My name's Dominique, and my question is, what are the similarities and differences of Antarctic and African penguins?
Okay, great. So there are a few similarities, but I definitely say that there are more differences. So you'll find that the birds that live in the Arctic, they would be much bigger than African penguins are. So for example, Princess, if you stood up, Princess would probably be up to about your knee in size. They're not that big. And they're not nearly as dense or as large as birds that live in the Arctic. So if we think about it, emperors and kings and gentoos, they need to be much bigger because where they live, it is a lot colder. So their feathers have to be super dense, and they need to be able to store a lot more food because when they go out fishing, their food has to last them much, much longer. So I would definitely say that there are differences in size. I'd also say that the bulk of the penguins, or all the penguins that live in those cold regions, they don't have the pink above the eye like African penguins do. There are similar colors though, and I suppose they do have feathers and they do have flippers, but I would say that there's more that's different about them than stuff that's the same. But that's a very interesting question. Thank you very much.
My name is Jessica, and I was wondering, how long do penguin eggs incubate for?
Right, so our penguin eggs, African penguin eggs, they take about 40 days to hatch, and 2 days before they hatch, generally we have a sensation where the egg comes alive, and basically what's happening is that the little chick that's inside breaks through this air sac in the egg, and you'll hear like a "roo" coming from the inside of the egg, and it's the chick trying to break out of it, and from there it takes that little chick about 2 days to break out of this egg. So it's not at all a case of it's a couple seconds and then I'm out the egg like you imagine from movies or whatever. It's exhausting for them, and it takes a super duper long time. It was a great question. Thank you.
My name is Jason. I was wondering what adaptations have they to make for warmer climates?
Great, awesome question. So one, they're much smaller than those other guys are. They're a lot smaller because they don't need to be as dense because it's not as cold here. You'll also find that like the adaptations for African penguins and these ones that live more in those warmer climates, their feathers aren't as close together. I know I'm probably not describing it right, but they won't have as many feathers like per cubic centimeter or per cubic inch because they don't need as many feathers to keep warm. Cool, thank you. It's a good question.
My name is Garrett. How do the penguins keep cool in the hot weather?
How do they keep cool? Okay, so this little lady's very lucky because right now she's got an ice pack under her and then a towel on top of that. So I am freezing. My lap is about, I actually don't know what my lap is going to look like after this because I listened before this as well. So right now this ice pack is keeping her nice and cool. And she has a fan on her. She's very spoiled. But our penguins, they will swim. Swimming does cool them down. Obviously if you're hot and you take a dip in the pool, that helps. You'll also find that African penguins, or certainly something I've noticed at the hospital, is that they tend to open their mouths and pant, kind of like a dog does when they're super hot. So when they open their beaks and they pant a bit, it does actually cool them down. And here at the hospital, the ones that are in rehab, we do actually have fans in our pens as well that we switch on when it's super warm. And sometimes we'll even sprinkle them with like a little bit of a hose pipe. We'll give them a shower in the middle of the day just to cool them off. Alright, so guys, I'm going to take one more question from that group, and then I'm going to answer the typed questions that have come in from Caitlin's class.
Hi, my name is Gabriel, and my question is, how is climate change becoming a problem for African penguins?
Thank you very much for a very good question, Gabriel. So climate change, the way it's impacting the African penguin the most at the moment is that a lot of chicks are being abandoned because of it. So what's happening is that when it gets to the end of the year and it's chick season, so mom and dad penguins are having all their little chicks and everyone is amped and all these fluffy ones are by the beach and it's cute and awesome. It's very warm and it can trick mom and dad into losing their feathers just a little bit before they're supposed to. And if mom and dad are losing their feathers, they can't go into the ocean to catch fish to feed their chicks. So the chicks are abandoned and they're left to starve to death, which isn't great, but we pick these chicks up, we bring them here, and we'll rear them until they're about 3 months and then let them go. We wait that long because that's about when they start hunting on their own. This last chick season, we saw, I think off the top of my head, 279 abandoned African penguin chicks. This was significantly less. We've had years where we've seen over 500, over 600 abandoned chicks coming in, and this is an endangered species. So that's quite a significant amount of chicks to actually just be left to die because of a complication that's come about from climate change. Also, just in general, climate change does impact where their food lives. The ocean is getting warmer, so you'll find that their fish are in slightly different places than what they're used to. So when they go out fishing, they might be fishing a little bit longer just because they're trying to find some food, which is very annoying for penguins. Luckily, Princess doesn't have to deal with that because she gets all the fish that she wants. She's very spoiled. Guys, thank you. I really enjoyed this class's questions. They were awesome. Okay. Then, Caitlin, just because your questions are typed, I'm going to end the broadcast here, but we will all still be together, and then I'll answer your questions from there. So everyone that's ending the broadcast here and going off, thank you so much for joining in the lesson. If you would like to help me and if you'd like to help Princess, please consider as a class, as a school, adopting and naming your very own endangered African penguin. You can go to our website or you can email Joe, who runs Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, or me, Tani. You can get hold of me. And because it's February, you can adopt 2 penguins for the price of 1. It's the month of love. Yay! Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed the lesson. Everyone is watching this on the broadcast, and I'll see you guys for our next Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants campaign lesson, which is on the penguin eye in February. Don't miss it. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye. Bye.